Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a seriously fascinating legal puzzle all about ownership, thresholds, and the exact timing of when a legal obligation actually kicks in. We're looking at an ancient text that asks us to precisely define a trigger point. Is a legal obligation locked in through the ongoing step-by-step actions of an individual, or is it strictly defined by their status right at the exact finish line? Here's our roadmap for dissecting today's text. We're going to start with the baseline rule of the first shared wool, then look at a sequential shearing puzzle. After that, we'll break down the debate, Ravhisda arguing action defines ownership versus Rabbi Natan, who says completion defines it. Finally, we'll tackle the Gentile ownership challenge and wrap up with a really clever 30-day resolution.
Okay, Section 1, the first sheared wool.
Let's start right at the source. The text says, "The first sheared wool of your flock you shall give him." Now, it sounds straightforward, right? Give a portion of the fleece to the priest. But, as we know, the devil is in the details. And the two absolute most important words we need to lock onto here are your flock. So what does this actually look like on the ground? We are dealing with a strict Torah law, not a later rabbinic decree, which is a really important distinction. Because it carries the full weight of Torah law, the parameters of what defines a flock are incredibly rigid and precise. To trigger this obligation, you have to own at least 5 sheep. Got 4? You're completely off the hook. You absolutely must have 5, and together, they have to constitute your flock.
Right, moving on to Section 2, the sequential shearing puzzle.
Now that we've got our baseline of 5 sheep, let's look at an edge case that pushes this law right to its absolute breaking point. Think of this like a classic dinner table logic puzzle, or maybe a buy 5, get 1 free punch card at your local coffee shop. Do you actually need to buy all 5 coffees at the exact same time to get the reward? Or does accumulating those punches one by one over, say, a week still trigger the rule? We're asking, how does the law handle a threshold that's reached sequentially rather than all at once? Let's map this out. Imagine a farmer who owns exactly 5 sheep. On day 1, he shears the very first sheep and then immediately sells that live animal to someone else. Day 2 rolls around, he shears the second sheep and sells it. He does this for 5 days straight. Shear a sheep, take the fleece, sell the animal, step by step. So here's the absolute kicker. At the end of day 5, our farmer is standing there holding the required 5 fleeces in his hands. He's got the physical material. But because he sold the animals off one by one, he literally doesn't own a single live sheep anymore. The million-dollar question for our scholars is, does he still owe the priest that portion of wool?
Section 3, Ravhisda, and how action defines ownership.
When Ravhisda looks at this timeline, he argues that yes, the farmer is absolutely obligated to give the first sheared wool. Why? Well, for Ravhisda, the action of shearing is what locks in the liability. At the exact second he sheared sheep number 1, he owned it, right? Same for sheep number 2. Because he owned each sheep right at the moment the wool was taken, the phrase "your flock" applies to that ongoing action. Selling the animals after the fact doesn't magically erase his legal obligation. But then we have Section 4, Rabbi Natan, who says completion defines ownership. Rabbi Natan takes the exact opposite stance. He says the farmer is completely exempt. His logic zeroes in on the precise moment the legal threshold is crossed. Remember, Torah law requires 5 fleeces. But think about it. At the exact moment the farmer cuts that 5th and final fleece, hitting the threshold, he doesn't actually own a flock anymore. He already sold the first 4 sheep. So at the moment of completion, that crucial biblical phrase, "your flock," just doesn't apply to him. This gives us a brilliant look at the core conflict here. Is the Torah law triggered by the ongoing actions of the farmer, like Ravhisda says? Or is it strictly about his legal status right at the finish line, which is Rabbi Natan's whole point? Action versus completion. It's a beautifully balanced debate on exactly how the law perceives time and ownership. Okay, Section 5, the Gentile ownership challenge, because we're about to throw a wrench into things. Here is an established baseline rule in the text. If a Jewish farmer buys just the pre-cut fleece from a Gentile, he's totally exempt from giving the first sheared wool. Why? Because he only ever owned the product, not the sheep itself. But this implies a fascinating reverse scenario. If you were to purchase the actual living sheep from a Gentile, just to shear them and then return them, well, you'd be obligated, because for that temporary window, they're legally your flock. But wait, this creates a massive headache for Rabbi Natan's theory. Picture this. The farmer buys 5 sheep from a Gentile, shears them one by one, and returns them one by one. Following Rabbi Natan's logic, at the exact moment that fifth fleece is cut, the farmer has already handed back the first 4 sheep. He doesn't own a flock at the finish line. So if completion defines ownership, Rabbi Natan should say this farmer is exempt. And yet, the text strongly implies he is obligated. How on earth can Rabbi Natan explain this? Which brings us to section 6, the 30-day resolution. Now here is the absolute coolest part of this whole debate. Who steps up to solve this massive textual problem? It isn't Rabbi Natan himself. It's actually his debate opponent, Ravhisda. Ravhisda steps in to offer a brilliant defense of Rabbi Natan's logic. I just love this. It shows such immense intellectual respect. They aren't just out to score points against each other. They're teaming up to find the absolute truth of the law. So Ravhisda explains that Rabbi Natan's logic holds up perfectly if we just redefine the nature of the transaction. In this specific scenario, the farmer didn't just casually borrow the sheep and hand them right back. Legally speaking, he leased the sheep for a fixed 30-day window. This is a game changer. It means that even if he shears a sheep and physically hands it back to the Gentile on day 1, legally, the Jewish farmer still retains ownership of that animal until those 30 days are up. So when that final 5th fleece hits the floor, the farmer does still legally own all 5 sheep. The your flock condition, it's perfectly satisfied right at the finish line.
This incredible resolution shows us exactly how precise you have to be when parsing strict Torah law. It forces us to ask, does ownership require constant physical possession, or is it simply about having a legally binding status at the exact second a threshold is crossed? It's a pretty provocative thought to chew on the next time you encounter any accumulating threshold in your own life, whether you're dealing with a legal contract, a tax bracket, or just trying to get that free coffee on your punch card. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning those everyday thresholds.